Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Today I'll explain the difference between a dedicated server and a virtual private server and try to help you choose the right solution for your online business. Let's just jump into it. What's the difference between a virtual private server and a dedicated one? What are their pros and cons, and what should you be investing in for your project? Join me and you'll learn all the answers in this video. Now, the first thing that you get to know is that with web hosting, there's never any 100% right or wrong decision. It all comes down to how big your wallet is and how much control you want over the hosting process and stuff like that. Thanks to the ever-growing market of web hosting, every single user will find an option that fits them best. For example, a virtual private server, yes, that's what VPS stands for, by the way, is cheaper than a dedicated server and easier to use. For the most part, it's a more reasonable choice, especially if you don't have a really big and busy website. But if you're looking for the most secure and private solution, a dedicated server is the way to go. Before we head right in, I just want to say that compared to cloud hosting and shared hosting, VPS and a dedicated server are more suited for advanced users. Why is that? Well, they give you a lot more control over the hosting space and allow installing whatever apps you want. They require more skills to run everything though, which is why you should only consider these services if you're serious about web hosting and this isn't your first time. Now, with VPS, you don't get an entire server at your disposal. Instead, the hosting service provider divides these resources between different users, and you get a part of that server's RAM, CPU, and storage capacity. It's like booking a hotel room that nobody else has access to apart from you. That's right, you'll be the only one with the keys to that suite. So even when all the other rooms get overcrowded, they won't affect your room in any way. A decent quality virtual private server will cost you around $25 a month, which is a reasonable price. I don't recommend any of the cheaper options if you need it for a website because, well, at some point you might want to use a control panel. If your server is too cheap to have enough resources, running your website will be challenging from the very beginning. A virtual private server with a minimum of 2 GB RAM could be a good start. When it comes to web hosting, you got to be 100% sure that it's the right choice for your website. Some companies charge up to $100 per month, but that's just too expensive for the average website owner. Compared to a dedicated server, a VPS is easier to set up, which makes it an excellent option for a beginner. And why is that? Well, most hosting providers offer virtual private servers with pre-configured control panels like Plesk so that you don't have to dive too deep into tech details and install additional features yourself. If you feel like a dedicated server is a bit too much for you, a VPS may be a good way to start your journey into the world of web hosting. That's exactly what I did back in the day, and I don't regret that a single bit. However, a VPS doesn't provide the same level of control, since you only get access to a certain part of the server, not the entire thing. Root access will be a part of the deal, of course, including control over the operating system and the software. You'll be heavily involved in the process. Virtual private networks are rather powerful too, and you'll be able to find a solid offer for an affordable price. if you put ease of use first and are looking for hosting for a relatively basic website, VPS will be a safe bet. Fast and secure is a go-to solution for most mobile app developers and especially startups. The sort of companies that don't trust cloud or shared hosting but aren't quite ready for a dedicated server. Video game developers are also big fans of VPS. So pretty much any startup that wants secure and user-friendly hosting will find virtual private servers to be right up its alley. Virtual private servers offer great flexibility. As we learned with the VPS, you get much control over server resources in terms of scalability. It is very well possible to expand and add more computing power or RAM to the initial setup. What does this mean for you? Well, simply put, you can buy additional space whenever you need it. But once you start getting more traffic, the server won't be able to handle the surges and might give up on you. Alright, that's what VPS is all about. It's not perfect, okay, but if you're ready to sacrifice a bit on control to get cheaper prices and ease of use, then this could be the perfect hosting option for you. But don't close the video just yet because we still have dedicated servers to talk about. As the name suggests, with this service, you get an entire server at your disposal. Yes, actually get a standalone server all to yourself. No other user will have access to it. On the downside, it's gonna cost you more than a virtual private server. But it will be a worthy investment if you do indeed need that extra level of control. With it, you'll be able to configure the hosting environment to your needs to maximize performance and efficiency. As far as web hosting goes, a dedicated server is the most adjustable option on the market right now. It is the most secure hosting service as well. Since you get 100% control over the server, you can deploy additional security measures to make it harder for cyber criminals to pose a real threat. That's why it's trusted by online banking services, especially mobile banking websites. Dedicated servers provide the necessary protection for online transactions, and that's something that you won't get anywhere else. And what about expandability? Is a dedicated server scalable or not? Well, not really, and you'll be pretty much stuck with that server. If you run out of the resources your current dedicated server has to offer, you won't be able to expand it. Instead, you'll have to buy a new, even more powerful dedicated server and go through the pain of transfer. Is it really a serious downside or just something to keep in mind? Well, look at this way. As long as your website is up and running, there won't be anything to worry about. Isn't that right? And the good news is, compared to a VPS, a dedicated server is a lot more powerful initially, since there are no other users renting the resources. It's a major league of web hosting. That's the best way to describe it. You do need to know your way around servers to be able to use it for the fullest, however. If you're fluent in customization and maintenance, go for it. So, what are the go-to scenarios for dedicated servers? There will be money well spent if you own several websites, as they will be much easier to control from one single server. My recommendation to you: only consider a dedicated server if you've got more than 10k hits on your site per day or more than 500k hits a month. For a big site like that, total control, raw power, and security will be necessary for it to run successfully. This is very important to understand. Don't pay extra money for a dedicated server just because the provider tells you it's a better option. Don't get me wrong, it is indeed the more superior service, but for most folks that are just starting a website, it will actually be a waste of money. Besides, you'll need technical stuff to maintain, optimize, and take care of that server for it to run flawlessly. And that's also gonna cost extra money that most startups don't really have. On the other hand, owners of several booming sites or one single site that's got 500,000 visitors per month will most definitely appreciate what a dedicated server is capable of. So that's about it for today's VPS and dedicated server comparison. Both these web hosting options are intended for the pros, folks that know exactly what they want for the websites. My advice would be to not start with a dedicated server right from the start, as it might not give you the money's worth. Like I said, a dedicated server shines through when it's powering up a really busy website with tens of thousands of daily views. If your website doesn't get nearly as many hits, I encourage you to go with a VPS instead. It will be like the stepping stone into the elite circles of web hosting. Find a decent host, pay for a month of rent, and go from there. That will give you confidence and help to see whether it's the right choice or not. Just VPS is one of the prominent players in the market, and they specialize both in VPS and dedicated server services. The pricing policy is user-oriented, meaning you'll get a bargain with most plans. Summing up, I want to say once again that knowing what you want in advance can save you a lot of nerves and disappointment in the future. That's why I recommend taking this a bit slow to find the perfect hosting solution for you and your site. If this video was helpful and you took something away from it, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye!